questions to tell me.
Got an hour.
Take care of yourself in the space. Whatever that looks like for you. If you need a minute, take a minute. It doesn't offend me when people get up and walk out. If you are feeling triggered, do what you need to do to center yourself. Know the difference between being triggered and being confronted. There is a difference. Triggered is a word that I think we misuse a lot and mislanguage a lot. If you are triggered, it happens in the body. In that moment, you are often not in reality. You're in projection or in memory. You're in a wound. And remembering the performance of that wound. In those instances, please do what you need to do. If you're not triggered, but you are confronted by what I'm saying, there's an invitation for you to sit tight and learn something. I'm increasingly frustrated and sad and angered and a bit scared about how, from my perspective, the culture seems to not only need but insist on confluence. You know, like everyone needs an amen section everywhere they go, or they say they feel unsafe. And I just think that that's bullshit. And so if that's the case for you, if you feel confronted, if your ideas or your beliefs or your predispositional thoughts are being challenged, it might be a really dope moment, right? A teachable moment. Doesn't mean I'm right. It just means I have a different way of viewing the world, or my body, or an event, or a person, right? It doesn't mean we're at odds with each other. It doesn't mean one of us needs to die. Real shit. Because I'm just really concerned about how it seems like critical dialogue sort of gets erased in the face of folks need to feel affirmed in every space, or right in every space, or have their ideas reflected back to them in every space. I'm probably not going to do that for you tonight. I'm probably not. And I'm probably not going to apologize to you for that. But we can definitely talk about it, okay? I still don't know what I'm going to read. I agreed to do this writing project for some kids who struggle. And I was asked today, while on the plane on the way here, if I had any writing prompts for them. And so I started writing prompts for these kids. I'm going to read them in order that I sent them. I don't know why I'm doing that. That maybe someone in the room needs it. Are there other writers in the room? Okay. What is a family tradition you wish to return? What is the name of your oldest memory? Where is the body buried? What does your blood borrow? Rewrite your birth story. Revise from the womb. What are 5 plagues from your childhood? Write the eulogy for the person who hurt you most. What would a historian say about your family? What would an archaeologist discover about your family? What is the forensic report of your biggest death? Rewrite the book of Revelations. What does your doomsday look like? Who are the headless horsemen? Write a curse for the one who cursed you. Mean it. When the poem is done, they should feel the effects immediately. Draw a roadmap to the place you grew up. Use all 5 senses. What demons from your past refuse exorcism? Do you even believe in exorcism? Write about the day you died. How old were you? What does the autopsy report say? Was it a suicide? Was it a homicide? Given your childhood, do you know the difference? Rhetoric and poetry are in the middle of a divorce. Whose story do you believe? Write one more poem about your stepfather. Let it be the last one. Write about the day you almost shot your stepbrother. Write about the day you almost shot your abuser. Write a love letter to the blood on your hands. Write a love letter to the grave you crawled out of. Write about the time you hurt somebody just because you could. Write an opus to Medusa. Write an opus to Eve. Write an opus to Jezebel. Write about your suicide attempt when you were 7. Write about your suicide attempt when you were 12. Revise the poem you wrote about your stepfather's funeral. Leave the sentiment out, bitch. You're glad he's gone. Write about the stories you're ready to share with your children. Write about the ones you do not wish to share. Write a poem that fixes all your crazy. Write about the fear. Write about the longing. The paradox of bleeding in front of strangers who clap and call it brave. Write the confession. You're not brave. You just don't want to die with all those memories. Maybe it's simpler even than that. You write so you don't have to die. That's the poem. Just say that. So much about this set is going to be about me trying to get back in my body. I feel really, really raw. I feel really tender. I'm equal parts pissed off and sad. That's usually a pretty potentially explosive combination for me. I need to get back in the body. I'm going to be selfish for about 10 minutes and figure out how to do that. Because I need to do that. So much about my political life is complicated. Because nothing about me is singular. I'm bringing so much with me into every interaction, right? Every decision I make, every relationship I enter, all of the language I curate is complicated. It's not just complicated by me and my specific crazy. It's complicated by all the people I drag along with me. All the ghosts I have. All the things I can't bury. The stuff I'm trying to make sense out of. the medicine I'm trying to give myself, the ownership of my own sins, my own frailty, my own ability to be a predator, because we don't fuck with that. It's super easy to talk about moments in which you were broken and point to the thing that did it and indict and accuse and condemn, write your poems, get people to empathize, they say amen, they love you, they think you're inspiring, and they don't know that you have inherited all of those same tactics, and on the wrong day, you look just like the thing that fucked you up. That's me, for sure. I never intended for this to be my life. Ever. I had no vision of this. The first half of my life was all about being an athlete, cultivating that, allowing it to put me in positions that I wanted to be in. I did that. Poetry found me pretty whimsically. I'm a volleyball player. It's paid for everything. Since I was this height at 12 years old, all of a sudden folks who had never paid attention to me were paying attention to me. They were willing to pay for things. They were willing to fly me to places, right? And it was an identity, because it was this like affirmation, like you have belonging because you are able to do this thing that people appreciate. I wasn't cultivating anything else. From the time that I was 11 to the time that I was 22, I played volleyball every single day, no breaks. My senior year of undergrad, which was also an Olympic year, my coach, who was the assistant coach of the U.S. women's volleyball team, insisted that I try out. I didn't want to. I was burned out at that point. He didn't give me an option, because I didn't belong to me even then, right? I go to the tryout with the Olympics. I have no idea why I'm telling you the story, but Spirit says do it, so I'm doing it. I go to the tryout, and with the Olympics, you have 4 sites, north, south, east, west. I was going to school in California, so the site where I was to be was on the UCLA campus. There were 400 girls there that day. I didn't want to do it. So that morning, I went to Jack in the Box. I ordered a bunch of bullshit. I was eating it. I was fine. I was chilling. I was relaxed. I got in the gym. There's courts set up everywhere. I'm walking in, finishing my cheeseburger and my milkshake, and there are girls who are so nervous, who want the shot so much, they're throwing up in trash cans in the hallway. And I'm chilling, because I don't want it. A site like that, 400 girls, you have maybe 8 opportunities to touch the ball all day. Because there's just so many, you know what I mean? You have to be perfect. Because they only log the mistakes, you know what I mean? You have to be perfect. Well, I've been doing this shit. I've been doing this shit every day for 11 years. It's muscle memory. There will be no mistakes. I don't want this, but I'm good at this. And I get selected. And now I gotta meet it. Because now I got a mama and a daddy and grandparents, right? And siblings who all need me to meet it. My one and only injury in my career happened in opening ceremonies. Because just like all-star teams, you assemble a bunch of people who are really talented, but they've never played together, so it still is really wonky, you know? So I go up for a set. It was intended for me. The chick on my right, from Nebraska, she's 6'5". I won't name her, but she was out of line. She goes up for the same set. We collide in midair. I fall. I'm breaking my fall because I'm falling parallel to the ground. I break my navicular bone, which is a football injury, right? So it's like your wrist thumb thing. I've never had an injury before. I'm a person who negotiated a significant amount of violence in childhood to the point where I don't know how to make my brain communicate ouch anymore. I turned that off. So I knew something was wrong, but I didn't know what to name it. I didn't know what to do. So I kept playing. At that level, the women are hitting the ball at about 95 miles an hour. Every time you go up for a block, it's just obliterating that. It's just obliterating, right? I'm feeling it, but I don't know what to call it, because that's the legacy of my stepmom. That's what it looks like in real time. When you're 4 and bleeding in a basement, and you're 5 and you're bleeding in a basement, and you're 6 and you're bleeding in a basement, and you're 7 bleeding in a basement, and you're 8 bleeding in a basement. Something has to happen. Something feral has to turn on just so you can survive it. You can't keep calling pain by its name because you won't live. So when you mood alter, you do something else with that data so you can keep going. And I was using that same fucked up resource in the opening ceremonies. Negotiating pain and calling it something else, right? The consequence of that, of course, was I was going to have to get screws put in my wrist. I was going to have to start thinking about what other identity I wanted to cultivate. For the first time ever, I'm picking classes my senior year that have everything to do with what I might be into. And nothing to do with, does it conflict with practice? You know what I mean? There was a professor on campus that I really enjoyed. I had never taken a class of his. I didn't even know what he taught. I just know I would be in line at the coffee shop, and he would be in line at the coffee shop cussing people out. He never combed his hair. Always had on Birkenstocks. Always had on tie-dye shirts. And he was wonderful. And he looked me in the eye when he spoke to me. So I thought, I'm going to take whatever he needs to teach you. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to take it. And he was teaching creative writing. And my life changed. Because for the first time, I'm 22 at this point, getting ready to graduate, and this is the first time I've ever been invited to just tell the truth. You know what I mean? Like, really tell the truth. Not tie anything up in a neat bow. Not be palatable. Not make other people feel good. Just say it. Just say it. Whatever it is, just say it. It changed my trajectory. It changed my life. It saved my life. I was not a monster to my children because of that. I knew how to name the things that were broken. It truly saved my life, right? So I'm really grateful to be here. I am not here to entertain you. I ain't got that. But I am here to be honest with you and to be transparent with you and to be vulnerable with you and to hopefully give you permission to do the exact same thing whenever you want to, whenever you feel like it. The business of owning every bit of who you are, owning your story, all of it. The miracles, the mess, the ways in which you have been and can be a weapon, all of it. I'm mostly here hoping that somehow in these spaces, we perform miracles for each other. We hold space. And it's not rooted in agreement, but it's rooted in genuine adoration for how you have survived. That's it. I don't have to know you to applaud the fact of your existence and know how miraculous it is and how impossible you have been to be here right now. That's it. I don't know why I needed to say that, but I needed to say that. So, okay, I'll read poems. Sorry. There was a woman named Margaret Garner. She was born into chattel slavery. She had 3 children by the man who owned her against her will. She was pregnant with the 4th. She was still breastfeeding the toddler when she went into a barn, and the man who owned her, his 2 sons, were in the barn. They saw her lactating. They held her down, and they, using her language, they stole her milk, right? This event catalyzed her to run. She sent her 3 children ahead of her, right? And then she made the plan to escape herself while pregnant. She gave birth to that 4th child along the way. Chewed through its umbilical cord, swallowed her baby to her back, crossed a frozen Ohio river. And she experienced 28 days of free life. And then on the 29th day, it was over. Because she was valuable. Her and those 4 babies were valuable. Someone lost a lot of money. She's sitting in the yard in Cincinnati, having escaped this Kentucky plantation, when she sees the slave catchers coming up the road. She gathers all of her children, gets them into a woodshed, okay? She hits the 2 older boys in the back of the head with a shovel. They're bleeding on the ground. She thinks that she's killed them. She drags a handsaw across the still nursing toddler's throat. She's in the process of trying to connect her newborn's head with the planks on the wall when the slave catcher and the sheriff come in, catch the baby mid-arc, take her to jail. It was a story that was much made over by abolitionists because, right, like, see how awful slavery has to be for a mother to make that choice, right? To prefer killing her children to watching them die, right? If it sounds familiar, it's because Toni Morrison characterized Margaret Garner in her novel Beloved. The character Setha is patterned after Margaret Garner, who was a real person. This poem is from Margaret Garner, 28 Days Free Until. When the sun is pitiless, when the girl is a gust of get out fast, when the boys are forced to mingle with the forest, when the baby, still nursing, leaves her mother. When the mother is the emphasis of fever, when Massa is asleep to the heat, when the dogs bit the breasts off the last gal that ran, when the boys who brought her back think it's funny, when the plantation is a renaissance of sizzling flesh, when hell is a man with a gun in his hand, when hands are the language of monsters, when the mother is held down in a barn, when the baby in her belly is a choir of knives, when the water of her body is unfathomably deep, when her body is rebellious land, when massa is real life flood, when the babies make it over the river, when they burn another man until he pops, when the women hide their eyes but know the stench, when the wind would not kiss the trees, when the dogs are lunching on wounded men, when God is a three-person's lie, when the mother climbs the air, decides to run, when the trees are Trojan horses mocking moonlight, when the trees are a funeral pyre theater, when her feet catch every shard that ever was, when she will not dare to feel it running faster, when the baby in her belly is no nightingale, when the baby in her belly plunges down, when the high grass of Kentucky is a manger, when the mother bore the small noun soundlessly, when the wild deer knows to nibble in wild orchestra, when tomorrow is fantastically close, when the river is a sudden hallelujah, when the mother is a deluge, blood and milk, when the mother a consonant of mud, when the mother finds dry land, calls it Ohio, when the mother and the wild deer ghost their chains, when the next 28 days are salve and sweet bread, when the next 28 days are chamomile, when the mother fits 4 babies on her lap, when her arms are measureless, a sacred rope, and when the 29th day will hold no mercy, when massa proves the hell he's born to keep, when massa finds the mother with full hands, when massa is Kentucky in Ohio, when massa comes with guns and snapping dogs, his hands the rotting planks of slave ships left to crumbling massless hulls on muddy creeks, when everything is red and fat with no, when the mother grabs her babies and a handsaw, when the mother pushes them inside a shed, when she bashes the boys' skulls with a shovel, when she drags the handsaw's teeth across the toddler's throat, when massa stops her before she kills the newborn, when he looks at her and sees a new conceit, when the mother's eyes have gone out of her head, when she is no more a woman, no more, when Margaret Garner escaped from slavery, she sent her oldest 3 children ahead of her, gave birth to the 4th along the way. When Margaret Garner got around the water, when she couldn't hear the rattling of chains, when Kentucky was a trail of smoke behind her, when she couldn't read the sheet music of lynching, when her babies played like they had freedom papers, when 28 times 24 makes a promise, when massa crossed the river thinking he knew her, when massa stole all color from the sky, when Margaret Garner was a carousel of heat, when she outraced massa to a murder, when the sacrilege of getting to a crucifixion first is a murder, with milk heavy, useless breasts, and no wild deer left to nibble.
wants to know if I think her father is one of the guilty ones. Guilty, for being unaware, for being entitled, for being man, for performing that word brutally. If the women who have come to resent him keep time with the truth, it is easy to believe the bleeding of women, I tell her. Remember the mama bird that lived on our porch last spring? I watched 2 other birds peck her till her feathers confettied the sky. Her babies went unfed in the nest that day. It's like that, I tell her. You were born a girl. Believe the blood.
It's all good. Just sit with stuff. It's okay. Trust me. I'm 8 years old. My handwriting is loopy and perfect. 2 long braids hanging crisp at my waist are evidence that I am young. And there is no weather I cannot become. My stepbrother is 10. He steals food from the kitchen, hides it under his bed, whispers kill curses at my mother, who is not his mother. She is guilty of sleeping where his mother once did. There are consequences for combined families. I'm 8, but I know these things. I comes into my room every night, a smothering hand on my nose and mouth. I can smell the legacy of monsters and men in his hot-stitched fists. They keep residence in my belly. My mama does not know these things. She is soft, and so she is doomed. The daughters, pulled from her impossible womb, will never learn how to stop bleeding. I'm 8. There's almost nothing left of me now. What scraps my stepfather left were chewed clean through by his youngest son. The neighbor boys who could smile in the morning and go murdering at night have picked the bones clean. I see pieces of me in between their teeth. When the lights go on, I'm 8. There should be a place for me. There is no place for me. Wherever I am, there are always monsters and men waiting to rapture themselves from my flesh. "35 years later, their teeth marks still decorate my bones. My lover wants to know the etymology of my scars. I shrug. No answers, right? This next poem I wrote because I was molested by my stepfather from the age of 4 to the age of 8. I remember my literacy coinciding with the first time. Like when I was reading fluently, you know what I mean? That was the same time when he started molesting me. And I knew I was obligated to keep this secret. I just knew that. I knew I wasn't allowed to bleed out loud. I knew I couldn't interrupt this pretty space we lived in. I knew I didn't want my mama to know. I didn't want her to have to suffer. Didn't want to have to explain. Didn't want her to have to own the weight of that choice, in that man. Didn't want her to. I'm little, but I still was like, I will keep her from this, right? This will be between me and him. She won't have to hold him. I did that dance for a really, really, really long time. Too long a time. It was crazy making, really. I get to high school. At this point, I'm a wolf. I've made myself that way. I've convinced people that I am a wolf.
that I am not to be fucked with, right? That I am impenetrable and unkillable. And in a lot of ways, that was true. And in a lot of ways, that's still true. The lie was the hologram of there's nothing to see here. Does that make sense? Like, everything's fine, there's no story, you know what I mean? That was the lie. So I spent so much of my childhood and well into adulthood without any emotional integrity or emotional literacy at all. Because in my stepfather's house, you could show anger, because that's just a temper tantrum that kids do. But you could not show sadness, because somebody might say what's wrong, and then you might divulge something, right? So my tears or my sadness or my grief was a thing that I really learned how to, reroute and mood alter and call by some other name so that there wouldn't be consequences to me. And I didn't figure out how to fix that and address that and name that till I was an adult and I was a mother. Really. I remember my firstborn son, who's 21 now, when he was 2 years old, because he was a domestic terrorist when he was 2 years old. That shit was like, it was mind-blowing. Real shit, I should have called the police. And I didn't know what to do, because I was so enamored with him. Like, when I made this boy, like he alchemized from my fucking womb. How did I do that? You know what I mean? Like, that's a goddamn miracle. I don't know how I did that. And he looks like me. Bitch, I am amazing. And I really walked in that. I was very protective. I didn't want anybody to touch Salih. I wanted to be his universe. And I was. And then he turned 2 and I was like, what the fuck? So I'm watching him and he's constantly fucking shit up. But I find myself triggered, like I'm angry at him. He's 2. Developmentally, he's doing everything he's supposed to do, right? But I'm pissed off. And I feel it, I know it's there, and I'm really ashamed of the feeling. You know what I mean? I'm really deeply ashamed of myself. And shame, when it's functioning as itself, you're keeping secrets. You don't want nobody to know. You know what I mean? I don't want anybody to know that I was pissed off at this 2-year-old for being a 2-year-old. That sounds crazy. You know what I mean? Like not in my own light, I'm supposed to be better than that, right? So I'm not talking about it, but I'm feeling it. And I remember one morning, waking up, it was a Saturday, I get him ready, in the living room. Here, toys. You play with those. I'm gonna go make breakfast. I go in the kitchen, there's a crash, I come out, he's done some shit, I don't know. I fix it, hey, no, not that. These, the toys, these are yours. Play with those. Okay. Go back in the kitchen, there's another crash. I come out, I gotta correct some more shit. Okay? I'm tight though, like I feel it in the body, oh. I go back in the kitchen, hear another bang. I go out, this dude has pulled over a huge plant, broke the pot, and is in the process of shoveling the dirt into his mouth. Because what the fuck? I remember walking toward my son. Like this. In my head, I intended to pick him up by his throat and put him on the wall. I'm serious. And I stopped right in front of him. His eyes were really wide. And I saw myself. Like, fuck, man, I have that. Like that thing that happened to me, I have that. I can do those things. I'm capable. I learned it. I'm good at it. I already know I'm good at it, right? I'm devastated because I adore him and I still wanted to do
my folks, right? Like, I remember calling my mom and being like, I need you to come over here. Because I don't think I'm a safe person. And I remember how awful that felt, you know? Because up until that moment, I was very clear that my stepfather's legacy was that I was the broken. And he was the one that broke me. And I didn't realize that I could be the one breaking. You know what I mean? Like that I could offer that to somebody else, knowing how much it names you. I could do that. I could do that to somebody I made. Somebody who looks like me. Somebody I adore. So I'm saying all that to say that, like, in whatever work it is that you do, as an advocate, you fancy yourself a progressive and shit. The most seismic thing you can do is take a look at who you are when you are your worst self and what gets damaged. Who gets damaged or erased or silenced? Do you know what I mean? When you are your worst self, right? When you're functioning from that wound, that old wound, that one that festers and that you really don't want to name or acknowledge, who is damaged when you're like that? What happens to the room when you're like that, right? It was a really important thing for me to own and to name. Because I didn't want to be my stepfather. I wanted to be better. I say all that to say, my high school sweetheart, I know what poems I'm doing now, the next two at least. So sorry, you guys, I really apologize if this feels disjointed. It's really, I'm trying so hard to get back in my body. I'm pretty close now. My high school sweetheart is a person that's always going to be in my life. And I elected to lose my virginity to him. And that was a seismic choice, and we're going to talk about that after I read this poem. This poem was written after he called me on a lunch break. He does this often. We're nothing alike. He's an engineer, you know, he barely cusses. He's like super appropriate, kind of corny even. You know, I think he has one tattoo. I'm covered. But he was describing the day we met, and it was a lie. Like he was describing a hologram, right? That I had created. And I felt so devastated in the phone call because I realized, like, shit, 28 years later and that lie persists. I need to get back in integrity. Like with him, yeah, but with myself. So when we got off the phone, I like quickly wrote down all of the stuff that I was bringing into that first interaction with him that he didn't perceive of, right? It's as good an introduction to me as any. I've already told you a lot about me. Things that I don't even talk about all that freely with my mom. Because it bruises her, right? You have a level of access that my mama doesn't have. That does not mean we're best friends, though. Okay. This poem is When We Met. When we met, the ghost of a girl who looked like me stepped out. Fashioned a tiara from kitchen knives, declared me queen. Pulled me from behind the gravestones, whispered your name. And these looted bones, this storied body, emptied out of whimsy, this burned out church masquerading as girl, this split tongue, this wolf, this malarial witch walloped in curses, this torn slip, this menagerie of bruises, this locust-ridden Easter dress, this jagged constellation of wingless birds, heretical, unholy, this oozing thorn, the arsenic I almost ate.
This wicked, willful bitch, unblessed by God, beholden to all my sins, the deaf music of my childhood, the sum of sorcery and rotting dollhouses, spent shell casings on schoolyards and weekends with rapists, the sum of stepfather's hands and locked playrooms. The devil in the details, the wasps in my belly, the puppy Leo killed, the gun my grandfather loaded the very same day, dead dogs in the dumpster, the promiscuity of everybody but me. The days I overthrew death. The day Dennis and Marcus didn't. The murdered children I played with. My grandmother's premonitions. My stepbrother's abuses. My sister's absence. The razor blades in the Halloween candy. The funerals that took all morning. The dress they buried Jakisha in. The crunch of Carla's bones under that car. Her blood running down the sewage drain in the way I forgot all about it the next day. The priest who was molesting her. The nuns who beat me. The rosaries that hung from their necks. The twin girls next door with third-degree burns. Their mama who lit the match. The everyday crucifixions. The pornography in my best friend's basement, the cases of beer her father drank, the way he beat his wife after, the boys like kettles whistling who murdered with indifference, and the way I still hung out with them on weekends, the time I fingered a pistol. The alchemical concert of new breasts